But there is some truth to it. Like you can't take it too far.
Absolutely.
Like with the discipline, and you never want to discipline anger either.
Right.
You always want to do it. With the idea that I'm doing this for their good. I'm doing this
Sure.
for their own righteousness.
Thank you so much for watching this segment of Reformed Dads. To see the full episode, join our Patreon community by going to patreon.com/reformeddads. So something else this book talks about, which I think is huge, is, and we talked about it in the area of creating a garden of yeses with one no, but we don't want to discipline our children out of convenience, right? What they're doing, because what they're doing is inconvenient, I should discipline them. What we should be doing is we should be disciplining our children to correct a sinful nature. In the garden, God disciplined Adam and Eve because fellowship had been broken, right? They sinned against God. Fellowship between them and God was broken, and God had to restore that, right? And it was a sinful behavior. It wasn't merely because Adam and Eve were running around the garden knocking stuff over, and God had to come in and pick it up, right? So we need to model that same attitude as parents, because one thing this book says, and I think this is so huge, is that when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, the responsibility to discipline Adam and Eve, the greatest weight of that fell on God. Because how that relationship was restored was Jesus' death on the cross, right? So God was the one making the bigger sacrifice in disciplining his children. So we should look at it the same way as, when I am disciplining my children, one, I'm correcting a sinful behavior. I'm not just correcting an inconvenient behavior. And two, I need to take the time to, when I'm disciplining them, to explain why I'm disciplining them, to correct them in a loving way that looks to restore that broken relationship, rather than go in your room, spanking you, okay, go out, don't do it again. Where's the inconvenience for me? It's my kid's butt that's getting the inconvenience. So any thoughts on that? Anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think he also talks about too, right, the difference between punishment and discipline.
Yes.
Right? It's we always want to have the proactive mentality and always setting them up, and because it's like, we live in a broken, fallen world. Sin will come. You will have these temptations. These things will happen. And we want to make sure that, as best as with our ability to, make sure that they're prepared to handle those type of things, and not always in the mentality of just constantly rebuking and correcting over and over and over again. You want to also just kind of have a proactive view on it as well. And
yes.
I know he spells it out a lot better than I'm able to in the book, but
I think what you're saying is, so corrective is going towards a destination. Punishment is just punitive punishment. It's like our penal system, right? People get locked up in the penitentiary and they're not really corrected, they're just punished. But corrective discipline looks at an end goal, creating a citizen of the kingdom, right? And we're directing them that way.
Exactly.
So it's got an end goal in mind, versus I see a behavior, I'm stopping it.
And that's and the punishment, that's as far as it goes, right? You're not thinking about the future, but with discipline, you're always thinking about the future, and you're trying to produce in your child righteousness, and that's what the most important thing is we want to continue to lead them down that path. And
yes,
discipline's the number one way to go. That's what you got to do.
Now, so you have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. When did some of these principles start to really come alive for you? Have you seen some fruit in that in your daughter? Do you have any applicable things that you can share maybe that she wasn't doing before. Now with the corrective discipline, you're seeing a change. Obviously, as you said, the sharing,
absolutely,
treating others before. But have you even seen maybe a change in her behavior in knowing that sinful behavior has consequence to it?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a forever process. It's gonna take time. It's not just gonna go away. It's not like a magic pill. All of a sudden, your child's fixed. It doesn't work that way. But
right.
Ever since we've been really implementing discipline, especially with our 2-year-old with Kate, we've been seeing a lot less rebellion from her. In terms of, we tell her to do something, she yells no at us and then runs away, and that kind of thing. Or the other one we've been trying to work on is not hitting her brother, not smacking him over the head and that kind of stuff. And we've been trying to really work on that. And ever since we started to develop discipline, that's been helping tremendously.
Awesome.
And then the other cool thing I thought Doug talked about in this book is just in terms of discipline. Like when you're spanking, for example, you don't use your hands. Right, because your hands are supposed to be made for loving, supposed to be made for comfort.
Yeah.
Also, especially as men, we tend to, when we're using our hand, we maybe go a little bit too far, a little bit too heavy.
Yeah.
So we started thinking about, all right, let's maybe do like a wooden spoon or something, for example, right, where it can sting, but it won't actually damage the child, right? Because we live in a society, especially where spanking of any type is considered physical abuse. You shouldn't even go there.
By what standard?
Yeah, exactly. By what standard? But there is some truth to it. Like you can't take it too far.
Absolutely.
Like with the discipline, and you never want to discipline anger either.
Right.
You always want to do it, with the idea that I'm doing this for their good. I'm doing this for their own righteousness. And so
because then you're sinning against your child.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to ask for forgiveness.
But at the same time, I'm not perfect. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
These kind of things happen. We do discipline and anger sometimes, and that's when forgiveness has to come into. You have to really, you sit down with the child, you ask for their forgiveness, and you try your best to reconcile as well.
Yes.
And then what I've also noticed too with the discipline is, like with Kate, we always sit down with her and we always explain, listen, you're still part of this family. We still love you.
Yeah.
We have this mentality of, let's move forward. Let's go try that again. That kind of thing. And I think that's also very important too. You don't want to just leave them hanging afterwards. You want to try to bring them back into the fold and let them be part of that family unit again.
Yes. And there's two sides of it. What you're saying too is not disciplining them in anger, which is sinful. And then the other side of it is, you want to discipline them so it's a discipline, right? And Douglas Wilson talks about, you don't want to just give them move them along, spank with a diaper. It should be something that stings.
Yeah, you got to move the diaper down. You got to get to the bare skin where it stings, and you don't want them laughing during it. You don't want them smiling, giggling. It can't be that type of experience.
It's a corrective a corrective discipline. Yeah. It's not meant to be pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
It should be something that you don't want, right? Because sin, later on in life, sin is going to have a lot more real consequences to it, right? So we're training them to deal with that, to think about these things that have greater consequence the older you get in life.
This addition versus submission. Sinners need forgiveness. Surrender to his lordship. Don't extort the grace he's given. See, I'm blessed by the one, Yahweh, all day. I'm a wretched sinner, deserve hell for always.